Okay, so for the first time I have an outdated version of processing, which is fun. And I'm not going to update. Why am I not updating right now?
This is a brand new update.
I have no idea what the changes are, and I'm trying to teach a class. So if I update right now, it is extremely possible that I could break processing, or at least break my understanding of processing for at least 20 minutes, which would be a pain in the ass for you guys. So, first things first, I need I want to make a selection sort, right? Like, that's my goal. All of the video we watched. So, the first thing I'm going to need is an array, right? To sort. So, I don't really want to just make an array. Oh, what the hell? I'll just make an array. So, what do you want to call your array? How do you make an array?
Selection.
Wait, what?
We're testing the selection sort, so name a selection.
Oh, you want to name your array selection.
Yeah.
I'm going to name my array numbers. Just to be contrary. Take that. I'm going to name it numbers because my hope is to get this program expanded to do a couple different methods of sorting, which would be fun. So, how do you make an array? Oh, you need closed brackets in here, right? So you do int closed brackets numbers, and now it's telling me that it's not used. Why? Should I fix that? Nah. How do you make it? How long do you want to make the array? Okay, good question. Let's pick a number of numbers, which I'm going to call creatively number of numbers. Okay? And I'm going to use this in a couple of spots, so I'm actually just going to, I'm going to start it at 10 just for kicks. You guys all good with this? Okay. And then my array of numbers is going to be, how do you make a new array? New? Yeah, that's part of why I picked this lecture today instead of playing more with Arduinos. So I wanted to make sure you didn't forget how processing works.
New numbers and inside brackets number of numbers.
Okay, close. New integer array, and then you need to put in number of numbers in for the argument there. So that's going to make a new array of integers that's length 10. What's that going to be filled with right now? Nothing. Null pointers, right? So don't try to call this until you initialize it with something. Let's see. I want to do processing stuff, right? So I need a... What? Oh, I need a setup method. So void setup thing. What's that void and the empty parentheses mean? Good. So the empty parentheses means it doesn't take anything, and the void means it doesn't return anything. Okay. Let's see. What do I traditionally put in my setup window? Yeah. Okay. So let me fix a window size. I'm going to go for 600, 400 because I like that one. A background.
You probably actually wouldn't want to do it because you're going to be looping through things, right? So you might want to do that later.
Or I could just toss that in the draw, right? Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to want to redraw my picture all the time. And traditionally I go with white backgrounds. Today I'm going to go with slightly gray for kicks. What the hell? Why is my numpad working? Okay. I'm going to go with 240 for a background, just because. I learned that lesson when I coded this earlier. So, then what? What else do you need to do in setup?
Initialize the array.
Oh, I better initialize that array if I'm going to use it for something. So how do I initialize that array? Yeah, I want to set it equal to something. What do I want to set it equal to? Do I want to make a... Yeah, I want some list of integers, right? To sort. Do I want to know what they are? I really
One of those.
either yeah or no. So yeah, I would just want to fill it up with random integers so that if I run this a couple of times and if it's not sorting, right? I want to see that it's not sorting. Okay, so I'm gonna make let's see. So how do I fill an array with stuff?
Numbers.
Numbers array equals
I'll give you a hint.
4. Oh, 4, and then the I equals yada yada.
So you need to loop through the array, right? Filling each element up. So I'm going to do for an integer I, starting at 0. And then what's the next condition in a for loop?
Goes until when. No, yeah, goes until when it goes up by nothing.
Yeah, so that's starting where, till when, up by how much. So till when? I is less than... Yeah. So you want to fill the array, right? So you want to loop through the whole length of the array. So you could put number of numbers here, or you could put numbers.length. I don't care.
Well,
Those should be the same thing.
if you do number of numbers, doesn't that get you with out of bounds?
I think as long as I keep it strictly less than, I'll be okay. But
Find out.
yeah, we could find out. Let's find out in a minute. So let me fill it up and then we'll find out. So, and then, how much do I want to go up by every time? So do I++. Okay, and then what do you want to do? Each element in the array should be, yeah, a random number. So I want to take numbers I and set it equal to what? Yeah, I'm not going to do 10 million thousand. Yeah. Pick something? 20. Not 10 million thousand. Okay, and now it's whining at me about floating not matching with inting. Why is it whining about floating not matching with inting?
Because random can do floats.
Yeah, random makes floats. Numbers, the things in the numbers array are supposed to be integers. So how do you make a float into an integer? Slap int on it. Right, so that's feeding the so we're feeding 20 into the random function, and then we're feeding the result of that into the int function, which is going to round it to a random integer for us. You guys good with this? Okay, and then just to check and see if this works, I'm going to take this thing, and I'm going to put it into my draw, and I'm just going to do, so instead of initializing, I'm going to print these out just for kicks. Right, just to make sure that I've got this filled up with numbers. Quick thought on this? No? Okay, cool.
Give it any number. Right? No, then up there.
Yeah, so I filled the array up here in the setup method, right? And then in the draw method, I'm going to print them out. So what do I expect this to do?
All the numbers that were going to be generated.
Yeah, I expect this to print out all the numbers on a loop, right? Because it's in the draw method. So this is filling up and filling up some more. You guys can't really see this, but it's printing out those 20 or those 10 numbers over and over and over and over again.
So we move it.
Yeah, so if I really wanted to use this piece of code, no looping it would be a good idea. I don't really care. I just wanted to make sure it was getting filled up.
Or could we have print lined it in the setup?
Yeah, we could have probably print lined that in the setup. So let's put that up here, and then we wouldn't have that looping behavior. But I don't need it anyway, so I'm going to comment it out. Right? Okay. So now I would like to make the bars that were in that video. Right? So this takes a little math, but what you want to do is you want to make a for loop, right? Oh, and conveniently I had this for loop just a second ago, right? It's really the same one I used to print them out. It's the same one I used to fill them up. I just want to loop through the array, right? And then for each thing in the array, I want to make a rectangle.
Maybe 10 wide and then index I times 10 tall.
Kinda. So let me cheat this a little bit. Let me say that I want to make get out my handy dandy piece of math paper where I did some math earlier, and I want to make the x value I times delta x, which is a value I haven't defined. So that's going to be I times the change in width, kind of. And then I'm going to make sorry, that's my x value, and then my y value I'm going to make to height minus numbers I, and then I'm going to make delta x wide and how tall? Never mind, I lost you guys, didn't I? Numbers I tall. Okay, so these are rectangles that are going to start at whatever I times delta x is in the x, right?
You don't want to multiply that numbers I by numbers so that we can see the difference between them better.
I don't.
Otherwise, they're only going to be like 1 pixel off, right?
Yeah, so on this they'll be 20 pixels tall, right? Up to 20 pixels tall, basically. Well, up to 19 pixels tall, right? So if I wanted to make them taller, maybe I would put height in here.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that the difference between the numbers is going to be, ones and twos and threes of pixels, and that's difficult to see. So if you went to the number of the height on the rectangle and like multiplied it by 2 or 3, it would be the difference between them.
Yeah, you could inflate them a little bit. That would be a reasonable visual step to take. Let me put in what delta x is here quick, and then I'll show you what this looks like. So delta x is going to be the screen's width cut by the number of numbers. Right, so I'm making an array with number of numbers, things in it, and for each of those I'm going to allocate one whateverth of the screen to that thing.
And you want that to be an integer, right?
Yeah, and that's a float, right? So you guys see that? So I probably should declare that up here as float delta x, and I'm just going to set it equal to 1 right up here. Why am I not setting it equal to width? Yeah, because the window hasn't been sized yet, and so up here, at the beginning of the sketch, before the window's been sized, the window is 100 by 100. You guys see that? But after the setup method has run, the window is now 600 by 400. So if I run this, I get bars. Right? And there should be 10 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes! Math works. And then if I run this again, I should get different bars. Is cool with this? Right? So I have half of this picture kind of like, I think I have part of my program working. Right? I am now sorting some bars into the screen. Now what I would really like to do is is some kind of a sort step, right? So I'm going to make a method that I'm going to call selection sort step. And right now all I'm putting in is I'm going to call that in the draw method here. And now it's whining that that function doesn't exist. So I'm going to need to take that down here and make it into a method, right? So what do I want this method to return?
The top of the pile? No.
Yeah, you could think about this as taking an array and returning an array, but that takes a shitload of memory. And I already have an array in a global spot, right? Like I have that numbers array in a global area. So I'm just going to fiddle with that, and I'm not going to make this return anything. So I'm going to put a void in here. So the selection sort step method is not going to take anything. It's not going to return anything. All it's going to do is rearrange the array by one step through. Cool? And just for clarity, I'm going to delete my commented thing. Also, for clarity, I'm going to take this whole business here. You guys see all this stuff? What was that supposed to do? Yeah, that was supposed to make some boxes, right? So I'm going to put that down here in a method that I'm going to call void make rectangles. So the reason I'm doing this is just that I want to make sure that I'm illustrating what I want to illustrate and not spending a lot of time talking about rectangles, right? So in my draw method, I'm going to make some rectangles, and then I'm going to do a selection sort step. And I'm going to go ahead and just push how the rectangles are made well off the screen. Right? And then I just want to check and make sure this is still working. Okay, so I'm still getting rectangles. You guys all with me? Okay. How's my selection sort step going to work? Yeah, there should be kind of two loops. The draw method is one loop, right? You guys see that? So I'm going to make a global variable to keep track of what step I'm on. So I'm going to make a global variable called int step. And I'm going to start it at 0. Why am I starting it at 0? Because, duh, that's the beginning of the array, and we're computer scientists. All right. So, now, in here, so my selection sort step is supposed to have, see, according to my pseudocode, I'm supposed to have a small spot, right? Okay, what kind of object should small spot be? Good. There should be an int called small spot that starts at close. It's going to start at 0 the first time, but then the next time it should start at 1. You guys see that? So I'm going to start it at step, right? And then it's telling me that it's not used yet, but I'm telling it, hang on. Okay? Alright, so now I want to loop through the unsorted stuff, right? So I want a for... yeah, so you might, like, look at this guy and just copy these conditions. So I'm copying my kind of array dealing with conditions here, and then putting bracketes. And then I should realize that this is actually totally not quite what I want to do. Because I don't want to loop through the whole array, right? Yeah, and I said in my pseudocode that I was going to call this J, so I probably should follow that or change my pseudocode. And since I'm having a bear of a time getting videos from here to splice together with GoPro videos, I'm changing this to match my pseudocode that I wrote earlier. Cool? Okay, so I said just a second ago that I don't want to loop through the whole array, but what's that doing? Looping through the whole goddamn array. So I don't want to loop through the whole array. Where do I want to start? Step. Okay, see that? Okay, then what? What do I want to do in each spot?
Compare a small spot.
Yeah, I want to compare this small spot to
Current spot.
the current, right? So I want if how do I get at the small spot?
Numbers, array,
Okay, so I need the like numbers thing at small spot. Okay, so now it's complaining that that's an integer, not a Boolean. Oh, good, because I'm going to compare it anyway. So I want the small thing to be... So when is it interesting?
Greater than
That's bigger.
Yeah, if the small thing's bigger than
numbers j.
the spot you're at. So numbers j. Okay, and now it's whining about brackets and stuff.
Then small spot equals j.
Okay. So if it's smaller, then I should relabel the small spot, right? Or rethink about the small spot. Does that make sense? Okay. Then, after I've looped through the rest of the array, what do I want to do?
This is the part that I don't know how to do, but you want to swap it with the small spot.
Yeah, basically, I just want to switch what's in the small spot thing and what's in the step thing. You guys see that? Okay, so if I want to switch those, I need to put one someplace for a second. Right? This is the you get to hold one in your hand part of this. And so for that, you need an integer that's like a temp or something. Right? So I'm going to make a new integer that I'm going to call temp. And I'm going to set that equal to, which one do I want to hold in my hand? Okay, so I want numbers, small spot. So it should be noted, right, that I'm not holding the small spot, but I'm holding what's in the array at the small spot. Right, so I pick that one up. And then what?
And
Move
then
everything forward.
you want to set numbers in the array at small spot equal to numbers in the array at step. And then you want to set numbers at step equal to in temp.
Yeah, so you stored the spot, you took the what was the smallest number in the unsorted bit, right? You've got that in your hand. That's in temp. Then you want to take what's in the step spot and put it in that small spot. And then you want to put what you're holding in your hand at the step. Does that make sense? So you should be doing numbers, small spot, equals numbers, step,
Numbers step equals temp.
and then numbers, step, equals temp. So that's a little switcheroo, right? So you're going to pick one up in your hand, you're going to move the card from the you're going to move the card that you started comparing everything to, right? The first card in the unsorted thing. You're going to move that out to what was the smallest spot, and then you're going to drop what was in the smallest spot into that last bit, which is going to give you that sorted chunk. Now the sorted chunk's going to be one thing bigger. So what do you want to do?
Step equals step plus one.
Good. Increment the step,
First step plus one.
right? Okay. Now, let me see what this does. It's going to... Hey, it did it really fast, and then it blew an out-of-bounds exception at me. Right?
and your step wouldn't be on the array.
Oh, yeah, duh. Because right here, right, I was trying to do... You need to find the smallest thing, right? But I just kept incrementing this step variable, even though I was well and done with this sorting process, right?
So if step is less than 10,
Less than
Less than or equal to?
Yeah, so I need something about the stepping, right? So I could put it here. I'm just going to put it right here. So I'm going to say if step is less than number of numbers, right, then we'll do the selection thing, right? Then we'll sort. And if it's equal to the number of numbers, then we'll stop, dude, because you're done, right? You sorted them all. So now if I do this, it should sort really fast. Okay, but I would really like to see that movie happen. Aha! So I should go in, where do I put the frame rate? 7. So I should put a frame rate of 1. Yep, so that's 1 frame per second.
And should we highlight the current step?
Yeah, so we probably should try to get it to highlight the current one, right? You guys see that? So that I could watch which one's being kind of moved. And that's pretty easy. So the highlighting which thing you're comparing to is way harder. So I'm not going to do that. But I am going to highlight which one I'm comparing, or which one I'm currently on. Like, how far have I sorted, essentially. So where would I do that?
And make rectangles and compare it to stuff.
Okay, so we should go down here to the make rectangles method, right? And right here I've got rectangles being drawn here, right?
And then on top of that, from
Okay, so someplace in here I want, like, if... Okay, so we could do if I equals step. I'm going to do if I is less than or equal to step. Just so all the sorted ones turn a color. Right? Instead of talking about which one am I sorted up to, I'm gonna highlight the sorted ones. And what color should you use to highlight the sorted ones? Red?
Why not?
blue.
Green. What are you guys doing?
Salmon. Fuchsia.
Horrible. Horrible. The lot of you. The done stuff should be green, right? It's good. It's sorted. It's done. How do I make things green?
0, 0, 5, 0.
Okay, so if the I is smaller than the step, I'm going to make the fill green, and elsewise, yeah, they're, what are they right now? I'd like to keep them what they are now.
Oh, they're 240. No.
No.
They're
What color are they? They're white, right?
Yeah.
So I think I want to make a 255. And then we'll just have a draw a rectangle, right? And now I should get green one. What's it doing? It's doing one thing that's kind of weird that I don't like at all. Yeah, it's turning it green before it goes through the selection. You see that? Yeah, I could maybe do it even easier. I have less than or equal to step here. If I just make it strictly less than step, it'll work. It just won't turn the first one green, which is fine, because the first one's not sorted yet, right? Yeah, keep in mind the step variable keeps going, right? Like that step variable didn't get, oh, it did get incremented. It got incremented one last time after it sorted the last one. And so this is, the number of things in the array is actually smaller than the steps.
I think what we did is pretty boring. We should take away the frame rate thing and just add a whole bunch more rectangles.
That's a super good idea. So let's turn the frame rate up a little bit. So I'm turning it to 10, and I made 1,000 rectangles. Come on. Thing.
No, like, get rid of the frame rate just for a second. See what happens.
Oh, because it's 1,000, but the size is 600. So it's less than 1 for its width. Divided by 0.
Thank you. All right.
Alright, now let's make it.
Yeah, I need one of you guys to have a slide whistle so you can make the noise. But this one, right, is a selection sort. So this one should just be rising. One thing you'll notice about these, right? You guys notice about all of these? Like, what does this picture basically look like? Yeah, it looks like a slope that's basically... Like, it just basically goes from the bottom left to the top right corner. Right? Why? Good, that's how we programmed it, yes.
That's how the random works, I guess?
Yeah, that's how the random works. The random here is trying, at least, to generate random numbers that are uniformly distributed. Right? Meaning, it's equally likely to choose something in that kind of 0 to 10 range as it is to choose something in the 390 to 400 range. You guys see that? That's a special thing about the way this random chooses. Remember when we looked in Python at the random function, there were like 15 different random functions, and they all seem to do different stuff. That's picking random numbers that aren't necessarily uniform. If you remember my little gravity simulation, I picked a random number and then I squared it. Right? So that's going to do something else. So like in this one, I might notice, okay, so height on my picture here is 400, right? So if I took a random number up to 20,
Deleted a lot more.
Control Z.
Deleted a lot more.
not so much more. But if I take a random number up to 20 and then square it, let's see, so how do you square things? SQ? I don't know if SQ is the right function. We'll see.
I think it's SQR.
We'll see. What should it look like if it worked?
Whoa.
It should look like a parabola,
Oh man, that's cool.
right?
Let's take a big number and square root it. And see if it looks like a square root.
So one thing I should add to this sketch, right? Obviously, I should add a re-roll this whole thing if you get to the end. Right? That seems like a reasonable step for me to take. So I'm not going to do that right now, but we could do that. So another thing we could do here is we could do what Story was suggesting. So 400 squared is 16 with 4 zeros. And then we could square root it. And now we should get something that looks like a parabola but sideways.
That was actually much closer to.
Yeah, that one looks pretty uniform, right?
Yeah.
Because the slope of a sideways parabola is not so changey. Does that make sense? That probably doesn't.
Right, yeah.
I'm trying to phrase that in a way that this class doesn't have a math prerequisite might be reasonable, but I'm kind of struggling with that one.
Okay, fun idea. Let's set the origin to the center and then cube it to see, and then include
No.
negative numbers and see if it creates.
Okay, yes, you could do that. We're not going to.